This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. There was a vocal demonstration outside the Winnipeg courthouse today as the trial for an admitted serial killer came to a close. Jeremy Skibitsky has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of 4 women. Lawyers made their final arguments as supporters and family members showed up to call for a search of the landfill where the remains of 2 of Skibitsky's victims are believed to be. CBC's Josh Crabb is standing by in the newsroom tonight with the latest details. And Josh, what happened in court today?
Brittany Skibitsky's lawyers argued he should be found not criminally responsible. They argued he's schizophrenic and was driven by delusions and psychosis when he killed Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and an unidentified woman, given the name Mashkade Bishake Ikwe Ibon. Prosecutors argued the killings were racially motivated and that Skibitsky was driven by homicidal necrophilia, or an attraction to having sex with people he's killed. A verdict is expected July 11th, but today there were renewed calls for a search of the Prairie Green landfill. Dozens gathered outside the law courts. Demonstrators eventually moved into the intersection of York Avenue and Kennedy Street for a round dance, which briefly blocked traffic. It's believed the remains of both Harris and Myron are in the Prairie Green landfill. Harris's daughter, Cambria, says these past couple of months during the trial have been the worst of her life, but she says it's part of the difficult process of getting justice for her mom.
I also want to draw attention to search the landfills and the fight that we've been putting on. We put this fight on pause to attend this trial, essentially. And now that we're waiting for the final verdict, we're ready to start pushing the wheels to get moving.
Cambria Harris says she'll be part of a meeting with Premier Wab Kinew on Tuesday.
So, Josh, is there any timeline on when a search could start?
Not yet, and family members are demanding a date when they meet with the Premier. The Premier confirmed the meeting, but he had no firm timeline to provide on when a search will begin. He says the government will share its plans for a search with the families. Once that happens, Kinew says the government will have a significant update for the public. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kathy Merrick says a search needs to start soon.
So I call out the governments, the provincial and the federal government, that they come and they do what they have promised to do for these families, and that is to search the landfills.
Merrick says no matter what the verdict is, it won't bring back the 4 women and won't lead to systemic changes to improve the lives of Indigenous women. She says Indigenous leaders must continue pushing for change no matter what the judge decides next month. Brittany.
All right, CBC's Josh Crabb live in the newsroom this evening. Thanks, Josh. An extensive search is underway in eastern Manitoba for Brittany Story. Police say the woman was on a group video chat with friends Thursday when she said she hit a tree. Family and friends say it's almost like the 29-year-old disappeared without a trace. CBC's Emily Brass has the latest.
RCMP say today they've been using a drone and a helicopter to look for any sign of Brittany Story or her vehicle, a white 2016 Dodge Journey with Manitoba plates. But it's now been more than 4 days since the 29-year-old was reported missing, and investigators are also interviewing people about the case. Story's friend Darcy Liang spoke today with the Missing Persons Unit. She's been spending hours combing social media for leads, coordinating some of the search efforts. Today she was looking for people who could drive quads into the areas that are harder to reach. But Liang says it's getting hard to keep up hope.
It's disheartening. Yeah, every time we get a lead, we all are like, okay, this is it. And then we just are back at nothing and zero again. So it's really frustrating. And also it's stressful and exhausting because we have not found a trace of her. And it doesn't make sense how a girl that looks like Brittany, like she stands out in the crowd and her vehicle, which is a white Dodge Journey with a pink interior, just disappears without a trace.
Police have been concentrating their search around the Rennie, Whitemouth, and Molson areas. Friends and family say they've been searching even farther, out west of Beausejour, east to Whiteshell, and as far south as Vivian. Initial police reports mentioned Story being in a car crash while she was on a group call, but no evidence of an accident has turned up so far. Liang says it's so unusual for her friend to be out of touch, she's starting to fear the worst.
She's very close to her mom. She's very close to her sister. She's got a little dog at home. Brittany would not just not come home. She would let someone know.
I also spoke briefly with Brittany Story's mother. She was resting a bit this morning after spending day after day out in the field searching. And she's asking anyone who's seen any sign of her daughter or any evidence of a car crash to contact police. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Family have identified the cyclist who was killed after a hit and run on Wellington Crescent last Thursday. Rob Jenner was biking to work at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights when the collision happened. His family says the 61-year-old was a kind and wonderful man who was looking forward to retirement. They say he loved cycling to work and understood the dangers. He was conscious about safety and always wore his bright yellow safety gear and a helmet with a flashing light. His family is appealing to the city to do more to make roads safer for cyclists. Police have arrested and charged a 19-year-old in connection to his death. RCMP are looking for a driver who hit a young teenage girl on a scooter in the RM of St. Clements. It happened Thursday evening around 8:30. Mounties say two teenage girls were on Old River Road approaching the intersection of Danko Drive. One was on a scooter, the other was walking. Police say the vehicle hit the girl on the scooter after initially stopping at the intersection. The driver did stop, rolled down the window, and then left. The girl was taken to hospital and later released. The driver is described as a man in his 20s or 30s wearing a baseball cap. The vehicle described as a black SUV or car with tinted windows. A St. James apartment block where residents were forced out last month will be sounding an alarm tomorrow. It's a test designed to warn people of changes in the building's stability or if there's a risk of collapse. A loud siren will go off at Birchwood Terrace at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. tomorrow. The City of Winnipeg says it is only a test and no actions need to be taken. But if the alarm sounds outside of those times, residents in nearby homes or buildings should shelter in place. Residents who the city previously put on evacuation alert are instructed to immediately leave if the alarm goes off. People will be notified when it's safe to return home. The alarm is expected to remain in place for 3 to 4 weeks. During Friday's newscast, a wrong photo was used in a story about the man killed in a police shooting last week. A photo of another man, who's now facing charges, was used by mistake. We apologize for the error. A group of healthcare aides is pleading for help. They say work conditions at Holy Family Home are so overwhelming, it's affecting their physical and mental health and putting residents at risk. CBC's Emily Brass has more.
Why is this here? What happened to you?
These healthcare aides have come together to speak out about work conditions at Holy Family Home. Melda Macalino says she's on disability leave because her job at the long-term care home grew unbearable.
We're doing our best, and like 20 people taking care of them.
Macalino has been an aide at the 317-bed facility for 24 years. She and the others say aides on the evening and night shifts care for 20 residents each, and when a coworker goes on break, the load goes up to 40 people per aide. Macalino says she's developed depression because of the nonstop pressure of multiple patients needing help all at once.
Even it's hard for you to do it, you have to do it. You have to do it because no one will look after them. And something happened, you're the one who will be blamed because you're the one who's on the floor.
The aides say they care about the residents and worry for their safety. They say some grow restless as they wait, often screaming, arguing, even falling as they try to get up. Harold Delacruz says his 17 years working there have taken a toll physically and mentally.
There was one time, I said to myself, I just want to give up. I felt like they're trying to break us.
In an email, Holy Family said it appreciates its healthcare aides' dedication and said employees with concerns should approach management or their union. But the aides say they're afraid to go to their bosses after being issued official complaints for incidents they say were out of their control. So they went to an advocate for help.
They got my attention is that intimidation. They don't want to talk. They don't want to lose their job.
Etta Pangilinan says she took the aides to meet with their union. CUPE confirms meeting with them and says it's filed 2 grievances on their behalf. In a statement, the union says it wants the health minister to reintroduce a bill calling for mandatory minimum staffing levels. The province says it's steadily increasing the required hours of direct care per patient and hopes to meet the national standards of 4.1 hours a day soon. Holy Family says the long-term care home consistently exceeds this ratio, providing each resident with about 4.2 hours per day. But a national seniors advocate says that formula doesn't account for patients' individual needs or when that care is provided. Laura Tamblin-Watt says that can leave night and weekend crews short-handed. She says implementing a staff-to-resident ratio instead could help alleviate workload.
If they don't have any help and they feel like they're being attacked or traumatized by people who are frustrated with the reduced level of care they can provide, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go find another career outside of the seniors care sector.
Pangilinan says she plans to ask the Premier and Health Minister to step in.
Treat them as human beings, not slaves, and listen to them.
Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba government has hired a former Winnipeg detective to lead its police complaints agency. But some are questioning why the province is the only one in Canada that hires former officers in this type of role. Kristen Annabelle reports.
The Manitoba government has hired a new head for its police complaints agency. Harman Wolda is a former Winnipeg police detective. He was recently named the new commissioner of Manitoba's Law Enforcement Review Agency. That's the agency responsible for handling all complaints about municipal police officers. And almost 90% of those complaints involve Winnipeg police. It turns out Manitoba is one of the only provinces in Canada that has a former officer leading their police complaints commission. Provinces like Ontario have even created legislation that bans hiring a former law enforcement officer in the role. One former police watchdog says there's a good reason for this.
It really goes back to the issue of public confidence. It's an attempt to guarantee to the public that the individual is making the ultimate decision is somebody who doesn't have, is not part of the police culture.
Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says they followed the advice of a hiring committee, and he has full confidence in the new commissioner. Kristen Annabelle, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A sure sign of the start of summer is the Manitoba Summer Fair in Brandon. It took place over the weekend. But carnival goers may have noticed something new this year: beefed up security and metal detectors at the front gate. Organizers say it's part of a move to help keep the Brandon-based fair safe for everyone.
There was an incident with someone from my school with bear mace, so I think that it's a good safety precaution, not only for me, but for, say, like little kids or elderly. I think it's good to have that in place. I think it's worth it. Like, the long is obviously going to be a little bit longer because of the safety factor, but I think it's okay.
I was working the gates yesterday, and the amount of smiles on the families' faces as they're walking, and it's phenomenal. We have 2 or 3 people doing bag checks, so they'll search bags, purses, wallets, everything like that. We walk through the metal detector. If it goes off, we kind of do a wand. If it doesn't, you're free to come into the fair. More security roaming, more security at the gates. You know, a presence of security can really hinder bad actors. So the more we have on the grounds and the more that are visible, the better it is. Then we do a comprehensive team up with Brandon Police Service. So they have at any time 6 or 8 officers roaming the grounds as well to provide support to us and our staff.
The security is, I think it's pretty good. I mean, you know, you can't be too careful. You never know in today's world. Everyone worries about safety. I think it should be the forefront of everybody's mind. It's, again, you can never be too safe. You always want to make sure that everyone's having a good time.
Security is pretty good. It just takes a while to get through the security, but it's safe. I think it's really safe. It still feels the same fair. Just at the start, it might feel a little different from what we're used to.
We're kind of concerned about the wait times a little bit, but all the feedback is they'd rather be safe and wait 20 minutes. All we ask, you know, with these enhanced security, we just ask for patience.
Weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here now. And Riley, it is Bike Week and Bike to Work Day tomorrow. So a lot of people are going to be commuting on their bikes.
Yes.
What do people need to know if they're... You're laughing already. This isn't a good sign. Oh, no.
Might be a bit wet first thing in the morning, Brittany, but overall tomorrow's actually not looking too terribly bad once we get through some of the
So the commute home might be better.
The commute home is definitely going to be better than the commute to work. I'll show you why. Here is a look at that bike forecast. We're expecting a little bit of rain overnight tonight here in the Winnipeg region. We're actually not too far away from that rain now, so that could mean some wet streets for that bike to work first thing in the morning. But as you can see, by mid-morning into the commute home, we're looking at fairly nice conditions, sunnier skies as we get through the rest of the day. But we do have a chance that we could see, for the evening hours at least, the risk of a thunderstorm through the evening. So we'll keep our eye on that. Here's that rain I was talking about. This part of a low pressure system that is tracking northeastward through Saskatchewan. You can kind of see the main axis of that low right here. That has been bringing some heavier pockets of rain to the Westman region throughout the afternoon today. So areas like Melita through the Souris region, Brandon, getting some heavier pockets of rain through this afternoon, and Winnipeg right now kind of right on the edge of some of that shower activity starting. Very short-lived here in the Red River Valley. Most of this tracking through the western side of the province up into northern and north central Manitoba. So here's how this times out as we get through into the overnight hours. So by midnight, we're into the rain here in the Red River Valley, but it has already, for the most part, tapered off through the western edge of Manitoba. By the time we hit first thing in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, most of that rain, at least to Trans-Canada Highway South, has already tapered off. Could see a few scattered showers, though, first thing in the morning. That's why I say it could be a little bit wet on that bike to work tomorrow, at least some wet streets first thing in the morning as that main axis of rain, that main center of that low, makes its way north through into northeastern Manitoba. By the time we reach the afternoon hours, though, we're back into the sunshine here in southern Manitoba already. Even by the lunch hour, I think we'll start to see a little bit of sunshine even through the Brandon region. Slim chance as we get into Wednesday, though, that we could see a little bit of instability. And I paused here about the supper hour Wednesday because we could see a few rumbles of thunder, even the best chance, I guess, for some thunderstorm activity coming through the later part of Wednesday here in the Red River Valley. In terms of accumulations, really not a whole ton. 5 to 10 millimeters to the Red River Valley. This 16 in Winnipeg, taking into account that we could see some of that thunderstorm activity as we head through into the evening hours. Otherwise, we're looking at 10 to 20 millimeters generally through the western side of the province by the time this is all said and done. South winds in Winnipeg right now, 20 degrees. About the best we did was about 21, 22 this afternoon. We're looking at 13 degrees overnight. South winds do pick up 20 gusting 40, and we'll see those start to shift around as we get into the day tomorrow with some scattered showers first thing, 15 degrees. Southwest winds shift to west winds, 30 gusting 50 through the afternoon. Even by late afternoon, mainly sunny sky, 22 degrees in the afternoon, and we're looking at temperatures staying fairly seasonal as we get through the balance of the work week. I did put that risk of a thunderstorm in for Wednesday, and up to 25, Brittany, as we head into the weekend.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
No problem.
The Winnipeg Humane Society is urging people not to abandon their pets. It comes after 10 unwanted animals were found at their door over the weekend. CEO Jessica Miller joins me now. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Brittany.
So this weekend, staff came into work to find a dog tied to a tree, a box of 6 rats, and a mother cat with 2 kittens, all left outside the building. First off, how are the animals doing?
Yeah, well, luckily the animals are doing great. Our dog, Rip, that was tied to the tree, he had his neuter this morning. He had a great clinic check, and he's ready for adoption. The 6 rats are in the back in our critter holding. They're adorable. They're eating well. We had the 2 kittens and the mom that we were able to recover. That box was turned over, so we're not sure what was actually in there, but after staff searched the property, that's what they found. So our 2 kittens are in foster as they need to develop eating, drinking from a bottle, getting into pate. And mom is in the back waiting for her medical check, but is looking to be good. So far, so good.
Some good news there. So Jessica, how is this happening? A lot? Is this a big concern?
You know, we do see about 1 to 2 cases of animals abandoned on our property a month. So, you know, it could be multiple, it could be one. It does happen. It was very strange to come in for our emergency and investigations department. They come in first at 7 a.m. So to see what had transpired overnight, to see, a box tipped over here, 50 feet over there, there's the dog. Near the front of the building was the rats. So it was like animals were just surrendered all over our property, which is something we haven't seen before. And it was confusing. And we were wondering why this occurred. Was it the same person? We're so hoping that people can contact us during our working hours so we can help them the best we can.
It really is heartbreaking, and you have to imagine that it is a last resort for so many people. But what do you want people to know who might have to surrender their pets, and how do they do it properly?
Yeah, and we have so much compassion for people that are in this situation. The lady who surrendered her rats was saying that she was fleeing domestic abuse. We have a safe pet program for that. So if you are in a situation you need to flee, we will keep your animals safe for you. We will keep your privacy. And if we can rehome them to you one day when you're in a better place, we will absolutely do that. If you have inaffordability to feed your animal, we have a food bank. We do low income spay and neuter. We have emergency boarding if you get sick in hospital. So there's so many programs that we have that we consider emergencies that we will take into our shelter immediately. We are full, just like every other rescue, and it's terrible because we want to help everyone we can.
Jessica, thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thanks, Brittany.
Coming up, about a decade ago, a U.S. brainwave scientist got permission to experiment on Indigenous children in Canada in an attempt to cure them of their traumas. One critic calls it bonkers. The story when we return after this break. 10 years ago, a U.S. brainwave scientist conducted an experiment primarily on Indigenous children from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. The researchers said their technology could make the students smarter and happier and cure them of their traumas. But a critic describes the experiment as bonkers, and she's baffled that a Canadian university approved it. The CBC's Jeff Leo has this exclusive investigation.
I begged her to go because I was so excited.
Back in 2014, 12-year-old China Galerno heard about an opportunity at school for her and her mom. They could go on an all-expenses-paid trip to Victoria, BC for a week-long experiment called Brain School. On the first morning, technicians from Biocybernaut Institute began placing electrodes on their heads and told them they would be spending hours inside darkened chambers listening to their own brainwaves. All of this came as a shock to Alma.
We did not know about that until just when it started happening to us.
The Biocybernaut brochure said that this treatment, neurofeedback, could make you happier, increase your IQ, and help you overcome the effects of trauma. James Hart, the American psychologist who runs the program, has a simple pitch.
Change your brainwaves, change your identity, change your reality.
Hart says scientific studies show that neurofeedback can make a difference, but critics say any difference detected is likely due to the placebo effect. Amanda Lavallee is a social work professor from the University of Victoria. She was asked to be part of the research team, but after attending the week-long brain school for herself, she said no.
Because I thought it was whacked, for a simple term. It was bonkers.
The study was reviewed and approved by the Research Ethics Board at the University of Regina. Because of that approval, the Prince Albert School Division agreed to support the study and allowed the brochures to be handed out.
Clearly, a serious mistake was made.
That's Ian Mosby, a medical historian and expert on unethical experimentation on Indigenous people. He reviewed the ethics application for the project, which CBC obtained through a Freedom of Information request. He was shocked to see that the application didn't spell out what would be done to the children.
That is totally unacceptable. There's no description anywhere in the REB application that actually talks about what that is. But it's actually the heart of the experiment.
In an email, the University of Regina says its ethics review board only reviewed a small portion of this study. It did not examine what Biocybernaut planned to do with the children. The university says it's sorry for any harm that may have been caused, and it notes it has since tightened up its ethics review process. As for Alma, China's mom, she says she hopes the focus on this story will lead to accountability. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.
The public inquiry into foreign interference in Canadian politics appears to be getting some extra work. The Bloc Québécois wants the inquiry to look more closely into allegations made in a report last week by a committee of MPs and senators, and the Liberals agree. The report claims some parliamentarians worked with foreign governments to conspire with foreign governments. Evan Dyer reports.
The NCCOP report landed with the force of a bomb last week.
MPs continued to react to the news that some among them may be working for foreign powers.
Isn't it time that that information be shared with all parliamentarians and, most importantly, with all Canadians?
In the House, a block motion to send the secret report to Justice Marie-Josée Hogue, who's already tasked with looking into foreign interference in the last two elections. A motion that quickly drew support from both the Conservatives.
Those members who willingly and knowingly and wittingly assisted a foreign government to the detriment of members of this place and their privileges, to the detriment of the interests of Canada, and to the detriment of the people of Canada, need to be expelled from this House.
And from the NDP.
No one with those interests in mind should be sitting in this House of Commons. We will support this motion.
Even some Liberals said they were in favour.
Until we know who exactly is named in that report as being conspiring with foreign entities, that a dark cloud hangs over all 338 members.
And in the end, the government threw its support behind it.
We're going to support the motion precisely because we think that the Hague Commission offers us
an appropriate forum.
Meanwhile, at the Senate, a procession of experts testified on the government's proposed solution to foreign interference, Bill C-70.
And I think we could hear more about the RCMP in terms of how they're investigating this. Now, the RCMP is very reluctant to provide any details, but I think they can always provide a little bit more, at least to tell us they're investigating some of these cases, how many cases they are, how active the investigation is, and so on.
It seems certain that the hot potato of whether to name names will now be passed to Justice Hogue. What's less certain is what she'll be able to do about it, or whether the same laws that keep MPs silent will also prevent her from making names public. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Planting from the sky, how one Alberta farm is changing the way it works and is using technology to learn new skills, bringing farms into a new age. More on that straight ahead.
My name is Temio Joe. I'm a future 40 winner. I am currently the acting manager for crop production with Manitoba Agriculture, so I work with the province of Manitoba. And before then, I was the agricultural mineralogy specialist. I combine the study of agriculture and weather, and I look at how weather affects agriculture. So my expertise is in soil moisture modeling, soil moisture monitoring, and with my work with the province, I did help with installing a network of weather stations. I installed the first automated soil moisture monitoring in Manitoba. Agriculture is the largest open sky endeavor known to mankind. Almost every aspect of agriculture, weather plays a huge factor in it. In 2012, my supervisor at the time, Dr. Paul Bullock, got a research grant to work on ground truthing, which is validating a satellite that NASA was planning to launch. It has such a great promise in terms of helping us to have a real-time or near real-time information about the impact of soil moisture monitoring across the globe. So ultimately, the goal of my research and my work is to ensure that we are able to have very good farm management decision-making process with the weather information we've got. Because we don't just feed Manitoba, we feed the world.
Well, we're leaving the city and we're going out to the farm to show you one example of how the equipment used has changed over the decades.
From plows pulled by animals to automated machines and now drones in the sky.
What next?
Yep.
CBC's Lauren Fink went to Thorsby, Alberta, southwest of Edmonton, to see how one farmer uses drones in his operation.
My name is Chase Marquardt from Thorsby, Alberta, and we'll be seeding a hayfield today with the Agris T40 drone. We're going to be 10 feet off the ground, and we're going to seed it about 22 feet wide or 20 feet wide. I set up a boundary of the field into the remote of the drone. I will just fill the tank, change the batteries, and other than that, it's all automated, so then the drone really flies itself. I took precision ag, so that's all learning about the new ag technology there. So we learned a lot about drones, and I wouldn't say as much about seeding with the drone, but definitely the mapping side of things and learning how to use the drones. This is definitely a lot cheaper. You get a tractor, your spreader, and everything else that goes into doing this. It's a lot more expensive. And this is all automated. You don't have the operator error. One of the main things is you're not driving on the soil, so you don't, in wet conditions, you can definitely do more than what you could do with a traditional, with a tractor or any other piece of equipment. So that's helpful, but the wind conditions are definitely what you have to worry about. And you can account for that by flying lower. So you got near infrared, red edge, and green spectrum. It'll take a bunch of different pictures, and then it creates what's called an orthomosaic, and it combines all the pictures together to make high resolution imagery. Using that imagery, I can create accurate boundaries, and I can also map what's called a multispectral imagery. So it measures plant health, so it'll show areas in red that are not growing as well versus green to where your high health is, and then you can target different areas of the field using that drone. I would say not a whole lot of farmers are actually using it. It's still a new technology. It's definitely not conventional farming. It's a different way of doing things for sure, but it's the future, I think.
It's very smart.
Might be a bit windy for the drone tomorrow, though.
Oh, no. My favorite time of the show, our dog walk forecast, and from the sounds of it, it's going to be a wet one for me and for many other people.
You know, if you're heading out first thing in the morning, you'll maybe encounter some scattered showers, but we'll be on the tail end of it here, at least in Winnipeg, first thing in the morning. Here is a look at that dog walking forecast. Bit of a special one, because I've actually met this one before. I've met this audience member. This is Winston, who's, I'm friends with Travis, who is Winston's dad, and he had a birthday this weekend, so happy birthday. Belated. We're looking at 15 degrees, some scattered showers first thing in the morning, and up to 22 degrees by the time we reach the afternoon. You can always send your pics to talkback@cbc.ca. This is where I'd love to see them. I wanted to show you a quick tale of 2 months here. So this is the Canadian Drought Monitor from the end of April of this year. And you recall over the past several months, we've been talking about abnormally dry and drought conditions across Manitoba. Here's the latest as of the end of May. Pretty much all of Manitoba now out of those drought conditions, with the exception of western Manitoba and parts of northwestern Manitoba, still in that abnormally dry to moderately drought stage. So just a sign of what a little bit of rain can do to our situation, or in our case, a lot of rain, with some places getting up to double the amount of rain we normally get through the month of May. Wanted to take you to the southwest U.S., which has been under a heat dome, of course, a really stale and stagnant area of high pressure, which is giving us some temperatures in the 40s once again today, very early on in the season for temperatures like these. And temperatures like we're seeing through Las Vegas into Death Valley and into parts of Arizona into the 40s. Looking like they will spread to the east as the week goes on, so we could see some temperatures breaking records through parts of the U.S. as well. Not quite as warm here in Manitoba. Temperatures fairly seasonal for this time of the year, up to 22 in Winnipeg this afternoon. 17s and 18s across the west, where you've seen a little bit of rain through the day, and even pretty seasonal conditions through northern Manitoba as well. Looking at how our day plays out tomorrow for the north, we're looking at wet conditions throughout the day tomorrow. Pretty much Lynn Lake south through the Paw, even some scattered showers through Grand Rapids throughout the afternoon. Looking at temperatures topping out around 13, 14 degrees, so a pretty wet one for most of northern Manitoba tomorrow. In the south, by the time we start 7 o'clock in the morning, we're pretty much out of the rain here in southern Manitoba. Could see some scattered showers, though, even as far south as Winnipeg. But for the most part, that rain has really pushed off by the time we get into the lunch hour. Even some clearing back to the west, 17 in Brandon by lunchtime, with a mainly cloudy sky. Maybe a bit of instability yet to come throughout the later part of the afternoon in the way of thunderstorms, but we're looking at temperatures again fairly seasonal. 24s for Melita, 23 in Verdon tomorrow, and we're looking at a high of 22 by the time we reach late afternoon here in Winnipeg. Brittany, I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up a little bit later.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Ditch your car keys and grab your helmet. Bike Week is underway. Whether you ride for recreation, fitness, transportation, sport, or just for fun, this is the week to celebrate everything two wheels. Plus, what needs to be done to ensure the streets are a safe place for cyclists? More on that straight ahead. Stay with us. Bike Week is officially underway. What started back in 2007 as a one-day bike to work event has now grown into a week of festivities. Events are held in every corner of the city, and it's a week for riders of all ages and capabilities to get in on the fun. But it's also a time where safety on the roadways and bike infrastructure are being highlighted. Earlier today, I spoke with the chairperson of Bike Week Winnipeg. I'm here with Dave Elmore from Bike Week Winnipeg. And Dave, lots of exciting things happening this week. What can people look forward to?
Well, there is an awful lot of bike-related activities that are happening right through Bike Week. We've designed this week to sort of connect with anybody who rides a bike. It doesn't really matter whether it's just for transportation, it can be for any reason, just for recreation, for sport, even just for the sheer joy of riding a bicycle.
Why is it so important for people to get outside, hop on their bikes, even if it's just for a short ride?
Well, you know, if we're looking at it from the bigger perspective, we really do need to change our transportation habits. We need to get more people using alternative forms of transportation, and the bike is just, you know, simply one of those different forms of transportation. I think that you know, we have an awful lot of people out there when we look at the pandemic that got on their bikes. We just need to encourage them to just use their bikes a little bit more. And we hope that this week, Bike Week, will encourage people to get out, explore their city on two wheels.
Is Winnipeg a bike-friendly city? What's our infrastructure like, and how are we doing?
Well, I think the city is getting better. We still have a long ways to go, but I think that there's certainly a desire on people's part to see more infrastructure, more connected infrastructure, and so that they can actually get out there and ride their bikes safely, because that's really what it comes down to. We have a lot of people who are interested but concerned, and we'd love to see those people not be so concerned and a little more interested.
I know that unfortunately we had a cyclist who died last week after being hit by a car, and safety is always top of mind for a lot of people in this city. What do we need to do to ensure that cyclists are safe when they're out on our roads?
Well, the number one thing would be infrastructure and separating bikes from cars. That would be the number one thing. We certainly can, you know, we can certainly help people in terms of we can encourage people on riding bikes, on how they can keep themselves safer on bikes. But again, there's also the driver's side of things, and that is really about, you know, taking care around people on bicycles, even if it's just giving them more space around them when they're riding, because we are riding on the streets, because we don't have connected infrastructure going everywhere. So you need to give people space and just be courteous to each other.
You are also an educator when it comes to this. You like to teach people what to be doing if they want to get on their bikes. What is your number one tip for people who want to get out, who are trepidatious?
Well, I have a couple of tips, but my number one tip is communication. I always tell people when I teach people that communicate with drivers, communicate with other road users, tell them what you want to do, and most often they will let you do it. So it's really about, you know, using those hand signals. The other thing is, it's about being visible, and visibility doesn't necessarily come with bright clothes. It comes with staying in the driver's field of vision, so not weaving in all over the place, and staying in riding in a consistent way so they can tell where you're at and where you're going.
What is the biggest thing that you're looking forward to this Bike Week?
Well, actually the big day's tomorrow, Bike to Work Day. That's our biggest event, and there's just so much happening with pit stops all over the city. We have our all-day pit stop down at the Forks from 9 till 2, and we actually, for the first time ever, we have a post-work pit stop that's happening at Good Neighbor Brewery. So it's going to be a great day. If people go to bikeweekwinnipeg.com, they can find out everything that's happening all week, and get out there, as I said, explore on two wheels and have some fun.
Dave, thanks so much.
You're absolutely welcome.
Here's a look at carvers hard at work at the Montcalm Heritage Festival in St. Joseph over the weekend. After the break, Riley Lachuk is back with a last check on our forecast. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Christina McKay and I'm a Future 40 winner. I am a youth and care advocate. I currently work with the Futures Forward program at Youth Employment Services Manitoba. I manage the tuition waiver grant program. As a former youth in care myself, I really want to support and help my community. I find that a lot of youth have opportunities thrown at them, but not a lot of guidance in how to use them or how to make them work for themselves. There's not a lot of diversity in how we approach youth or even listen to them. I know from my experience, I went through social worker after social worker, and it's really destabilizing to not feel like you're a person, you're just a number. I feel like a lot of the community now, especially people in my type of position, are working towards being that listening ear and guiding those coming up out of the system behind us. There's something really warm and touching about entering a room where other people can speak your language and they know what you've been through. And before, I used to be the person looking for support and looking to find those rooms, and now I'm a part of a crew that's helping to design them and make sure that the people coming in are feeling what I did when I first found them and having a language and saying, I get it. I love the idea of being a warrior but never having to pick up a sword.
So here's a look at radar once again, which is showing that we are seeing some showers through the Winnipeg region. Some of this not exactly, even here in downtown, not making it to the ground yet, but we have seen some heavier pockets of rain back to the west through the afternoon, even extreme southern Manitoba. That does taper off by the time we hit the early morning hours tomorrow. So first thing in the morning, still a couple of scattered showers, but we will see that tapering off even by the time we hit lunch. 17 by noon in Winnipeg, and we're looking at some sunny breaks returning for the afternoon tomorrow at 22 degrees. 24 risk we could see a thunderstorm through the later part of Wednesday, 20 for Thursday, and then we're back up into 24s and 25s by the time we reach the weekend. Could see a few more showers overnight Saturday into Sunday. Well, it was a hero's welcome for young Indigenous volunteers at Winnipeg's airport yesterday. The teens came back home from the Dominican Republic, where they helped build a house for charity.
More than a dozen young people volunteered for the initiative, each raising $3,000 to help build the home. That story is tonight's Daily Lift.
It's really life-changing. It's opens your eyes about a lot of things. The way that they are over there is just like so friendly, and you could almost swear that we've known each other like our whole lives.
It felt nice. It felt very great working together with different communities to build a house for a nice man. Learn how to connect with others.
You've made your nations proud for doing what you did. And what you've done is humanitarian, but also it's reaching out in compassion and being examples as people from MKO territory, and your families, your communities are very proud of you, and we at our MKO are very proud of you.
The purpose is always to bring anyone interested in giving back to a less fortunate community, to build homes for people that actually have it much worse than a lot of people. The houses there, and the house particularly that we replaced, was made of just sticks and some spare wood, spare metal, plastic, cardboard, and I wanted our young people from the north especially, but Indigenous youth, to experience what it's like to go to another country and see the similarities and the differences of our communities, and then, have an opportunity to give back.
I couldn't love that story more.
Yes.
And I also love that they're also learning life skills.
I was going to say that life skills, and it's kind of like the trip of a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
To get out and do something good like that.
Giving back. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you guys did. We will be back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.
See ya.